Before we start, the name is at the top of the screen. The empire ruled by a dragon. Lupul. When the slumbering dragon awakens, a new emperor is born. And within this peaceful, beautiful land, she found herself once again. In the carriage, her maid gently asks her to wake up. They are here. That's a dragon lake she will be looking after starting today. On a day she never wanted to relive. She murmurs, quite beautiful indeed. Yet here she was reliving it for the 5th time. There was a man she once was in love with. At the age of 23 she was a novice keeper of the dragon lake. That was when she awakened the dragon that slept deep within the lake, and met him for the first time. From that moment on, her life that was no longer hers. Thunder rumbled outside as His Majesty sat on his throne in the dim room. The man asked if he truly meant to let the Grand Duchess Solaris off the hook. She has committed high treason and demanded he must punish her accordingly, even if she was his mate. A muscle moved. His mate? He scowled. That woman was not his maid. She stayed out of sight, listening to his every cruel word. Later she sat by the window wall, watching the rain pour, telling herself not to let something so small hurt her. She is used to this by now. Hasolan Oder was blinded by love, and sacrificed 14 years of her life for that man. However, what she obtained in return was in the position of the empress, but rather that of Grand Duchess Solaris. Even though she clearly should have been his empress. Her maid admitted she really didn't understand His Majesty. She had the power that every dragon's mate possessed, and she used that power to help His Majesty achieve victory in the civil war, so why was he so cruel to her? Although she was used for a long time and was ultimately framed for treason when she had every right to be empress, she didn't care. She sharply told the maid enough, she will not tolerate anyone who speaks ill of His Majesty, not even her. Because she was clinging to the tiniest shred of hope that one day the emperor would finally look her way. However, His Majesty sent a gift for her one day, and when she opened it, her whole world changed. It was a silk scarf. She came to realize the truth when she was driven to the very edge of her life. Not once had the emperor ever, even allowed her to stay by his side. In her final moments, she did not beg God for a better next life, nor did she look back on her pitiful days past. She was very exhausted. All she wanted was to rest. But unfortunately, death did not give Hasolan Oder the rest she had hoped for. Instead, she was back 14 years in the past. She steps out, unable to believe this was the first place she was assigned to work as a keeper. The woman tells her not to be shocked when she tells her this. At the bottom of this lake is the sleeping black dragon who will be their next emperor. She scoffs, thinking of course you would know that. Because this was the day she decided to take a walk around the lake, only to awaken that man and trigger all the events to come. She still remembers his cruel words as he declared the Grand Duchess wasn't his maid. She should be dead, and wonders if this is a dream. Or is she seeing her life flash before her eyes? Whatever it is, why did she have to come back to the day she met that man? The maid says since this is her first day, would she like to take a walk around the lake? But she replies no, she's a little tired, so she thinks she will head to the lodge asleep. The maid calls after her, suggesting to guide her there, but she doesn't respond and simply keeps walking away. Making the maid wonder, how does she know the way? First she went to sleep, thinking this was no more than a dream before her death. But she figured out what was going on the second she opened her eyes today. She was stuck on the day she wanted to erase the most from her life. She tried going back to sleep, but when she reopened her eyes she was still back in today, so she couldn't escape this place simply by going to sleep. Soon she came to this realization: she could only get out of this loop by awakening that man. But she wasn't ready to do that, and she didn't want tomorrow to come anyway. She would rather die again. However, no matter how many times she died, she kept returning to today. She couldn't even die as she pleased. She smiled at the maid and asked her if she had any liquor, thinking what a wretched life. She wonders why is this happening to her. Is dying and being at peace too much to ask for? She was used for 14 years and tossed aside. Doesn't she deserve an end to her sufferings? However, she is determined not to give in, even if she is stuck here for an eternity. She swears she won't awaken him this time. A man smirks, says finally she has returned to him, his Solon. She jolts upright, startled by a strange feeling she can't place. Her head throbs, and she winces, trying to remember what did she even do yesterday. Then she hears his voice. He smirks and says she's finally awake, making her freeze. He takes the drink from her hand, casually remarking that she shouldn't be drinking. She was so determined to never be involved with him again. He casually adds, or she can drink as long as it is on his watch. Lifting his chin, he asks for an answer. Isn't she the keeper of his lake? Why can't she escape him? The Emperor of Lupul. Black Dragon Aclands. In her memory, he was always perfect. He embraced anyone regardless of their status, if he deemed them beneficial for the empire. When it came to those, he deemed the opposite, he swiftly eliminated them. His terrifying rationality made him the perfect ruler. He's the man she loves, loved with everything she had. But why is he standing before her again? He asks, hasn't she sobered up yet? Her eyes are bloodshot. And tells her to go back to sleep if she is tired. As he reaches out, she quickly turns away, a wave of dizziness hitting her. What is going on? How did he get out of his slumber in the Dragon Lake? He stares straight ahead, expression flat. Then his eyes shift to her. Does she not remember what happened last night? He asks. She awakened him. And in an awfully rude way, might he add. She was in the lake, crying out, asking why he was doing this to her. She couldn't even die on her own terms, so what was the point of coming back to this time at all? She had been drinking, her thoughts spiraling. If she didn't awaken him like she had 14 years ago, was she stuck here forever? The realization hit her like a curse. She screamed into the night, calling it too cruel. Didn't he know what she had done just to try and free herself from him? Tears welled in her eyes and dripped into the lake below. If there was no escaping him, no matter what she did, then maybe drowning herself here was all she had left. She doubted he would even care about having a dead body rotting in his lake. She cannot believe she did that. She then asks him where are her clothes. He replies they were taken off to dry since they were drenched in liquor and water. The other woman who was here did not have clothes her size, which explains the sheet wrapped around her. She murmurs then she must have been the one to take off her clothes. She should thank her later, but he tells her not to be so sure about that. It could have been him. She mumbles what? Drawing a smirk from him, but the expression vanishes from her face as she suddenly flinches, memories of the gift he sends her in his past life flashing through her mind. Her body tenses, the thought hitting hard, he would never, he doesn't even see her as a woman. Then he speaks, calmly pointing out that she's making another assumption. And maybe she is, but she knows one thing for certain, coming back 14 years hasn't changed who he is. She calmly says he is the dragon who is to become their emperor, so of course he would do no such thing. And she would like to get dressed now so he can leave. After he leaves, she thinks about how tomorrow has already come. This isn't a nightmare or the afterlife. She has truly come back 14 years into the past. Suddenly, light spills in through the window and she realizes the sun is rising. She watches it quietly, murmuring it's beautiful. Now that she thinks about it, how long has it been since she last watched a sunrise? She thinks about how beautiful it is, how she hasn't felt this way about anything in so long. Tears slip down her face as it hits her. Not once in the past 14 years has she felt this. She has never drunk until she blacked out before, nor has she ever asked that man to leave. This is all a first because prior to now she only lived for him and never for herself. Although she accidentally awakened him again, thanks to that she has a new choice. She doesn't know why this happened to her, nor what it is that she's expected to do, but this time she will solely live for herself. Standing in front of him, she declares she will notify the imperial palace of his awakening. Because in order to do that, she must first get away from him. Once the imperial palace learns the news, officials will soon come to escort the next emperor. Then she can safely distance herself from him. As a low-level lake keeper, she will never have a reason to meet someone like the emperor for the rest of her life. She shuts her eyes, feeling a wave of relief. At least in this life, staying away from him will be easy. But her eyes snap open when he suddenly tells her not to notify them. He announces he won't go to the capital, he will remain right here with her, he adds. Is she imagining things or is he getting a bit too close to her? She blurts out, what does he mean he won't go to the capital? She reminds him he knows the rule. In Lupul, there is an unbreakable rule that has been passed down since the empire's foundation. There can only be one emperor per generation and it must be a dragon with a mate. All other dragons must stay dormant in their places and wait their turn. Even if it takes 100 of years. And now it is Aclands' turn. But he wants to remain here. She tells him once a dragon awakens, the capital is informed immediately. Then the dragon begins their preparation to become the next ruler. This is the law of this empire. He counters, he's not saying he will never go. He wants to take some time to adjust since he only just woke up. She argues there are not enough people to attend to him here, so it will be uncomfortable, and insists he should at least go to the nearby domain, but he suddenly says he only needs her. That is enough for him. A frown mars her beautiful face as he adds, so could she hold off on notifying the imperial palace? His voice sounds gentle and looking at him makes her feel like she has returned to her old self again. To the naive Hasolan Oder. Even though Acland didn't make her his empress, she was the only one he opened up to, and while he never acknowledged her as his mate, he was sometimes sweet. Those small gestures piled up and made her a blind fool. She goes quiet, the question haunting her, why hadn't she realized it back then? He studies her face, realizing she doesn't look well, and asks if she is hungover. Kindness without commitment only tortures you with false hope. This man will surely be the poison that binds her. Later some men arrive for him and one of them steps forward saying they're here for him. He is Palsgrave, who will escort him to the capital. And these men are the imperial cavalry, directly under the empress's command. They came as soon as they heard of his awakening, so they couldn't prepare a carriage in advance and ask for forgiveness. He whips his head slightly in her direction. Later, he confronts her. He thought he told her to postpone the report, but she insists reporting to the capital right away is the proper protocol. He asks so the protocol is more important than his words. She simply asks him to forgive her. The man watches. The guards whisper. The tension is obvious. He then apologizes for interrupting but insists they must make haste if they are to arrive at the capital on time. She bows and tells him goodbye, but he only smirks, saying she seems to think he'll leave on his own. She remains calm as she replies that a low-level employee like her couldn't possibly be of any help to him. He taps her lightly on the shoulder, asking if there's anything she wants, anything she wishes to do. Then, without warning, he lifts her by the waist and says that whatever it is he will make it happen. With that he places her on the horse beside him and says, "Come with me," before turning to the man nearby and adding the late keeper will be joining them. She lets him know it takes a whole day to get to the capital from here on horseback, and it is a difficult trip even for the cavalry, much less a woman. She insists she should stay just here, but he refuses to listen and tells them to go. He quickly rushes ahead on his horse while the other men scramble to keep up, making sure they don't lose sight of his highness. She watches him go, a heavy thought sinking in. Is she once again destined to be strung alone by that man? But then she urges her horse forward, catching up to ride beside him. He glances her way and asks if she's finally changed her mind. She answers calmly that she has no power to disobey his orders and reminds him that he said he would give her what she wants. She tells him to keep his promise. He gives a slight smile and replies of course he will give her anything she desires. Like that, she embarked on an unexpected journey to the capital. After riding tirelessly for an entire day, they finally arrived at the empire's capital. The man admits they traveled that distance without stopping once, but his highness doesn't look the least bit tired. There truly is no doubt that he's their next emperor. But he doesn't indulge him. Looking around he asks where is the late keeper. The man replies she was here when they were getting off their horses. Just then the Empress Roella appears, asking if he's the dragon who will succeed her. After a brief greeting, she stiffens, the truth dawning on her. He has been here before, hasn't he? She begins to say not to tell her, but he cuts her off saying yes, he turned back time to reclaim what is his. The Empress echoes in disbelief, he turned back time. He simply answers yes, and she screams in his face, demanding to know if he's lost his mind, and tells him that power is forbidden. He knows that, doesn't he? He replies without hesitation of course he does. Then why, she demands. Before he can answer, the man steps in, gently urging Her Majesty to calm down, reminding her that she's frightening the attendants. Regaining her composure, she straightens and suggests they continue this conversation elsewhere, though she makes it clear she expects a thorough explanation. He says all right, but first things first. Turning to Palsgrave he tells her the late keeper is somewhere among the crowd and to find her. And once he does he is not to take his eyes off her until he comes back. He asks the late keeper, thinking why does he care so much about a low-level employee? His hand lands firmly on the man's shoulder. Eye to eye, he warns him to keep one thing in mind, that woman is to be here when he comes back. Safe and comfortable, he adds, and asks if he understands. He replies yes, he will take her somewhere very comfortable. The moment the Empress realizes it's a woman, the truth hits her. He used the forbidden power for his mate. Did he end up losing her? The ultimate rule of the Empire. Only a dragon with a mate can be the emperor. Then what is a mate? The moment a dragon accepts a human lover as their mate, the two beings start to integrate. The human receives the dragon's longevity and power, while the dragon receives the human's morality and emotions. In short, a dragon's mate is their one and only love, as well as their sole weakness. Inside, The emperor screams she cannot believe this. Not only did he lose his mate but he turned back time because of it. He simply suggests she should calm down a little. This only infuriates her and she yells how can she calm down right now. She was so happy to finally have her successor that she even personally went out to greet them. Yet this is who she is stuck with. Her head throbs and she admits she has never missed her consort as much as she does today. He simply says she doesn't seem like a dragon to him. Her body has grown old and she's too emotional. She replies of course because her integration with her mate has caused her to physically age and learn about human emotions, and adds he must have experienced it too. The feeling of accepting his mate and being loved by her. Yet he talks as if he doesn't know what it is like. She shrugs and says there's no way he wouldn't know without a mate, they're nothing more than living corpses. Grinning, he says he's well aware of that. She says she's assuming the lake keeper he mentioned earlier is his mate and asks him how did he lose her. And adds he must know the reason to prevent losing her a second time. He admits it is him. He is the reason his maid died. On the other hand, Hasolan asks why he's holding her captive. He blurts out a quick denial, absolutely not, and scrambles to explain himself. She must be exhausted from the long trip, he says, so he simply wants her to rest in one of the palace's spare rooms. But she points out, as a commoner, she has no right to stay here. He suggests if palace is a bit much, why not use the attendant's lodge? But she says now that she has safely escorted His Highness to the palace, by protocol she should return to Dragon Lake. He says yes, but trails of thinking she's quite unwavering. When His Highness first said he would bring the lake keeper with him to the palace, he honestly did not understand why, but now that he sees that there is a certain elegance about her, he realizes she is certainly no ordinary woman. At last he decides to be honest with her. He informs her His Highness has ordered him to keep her here. He gently suggests she eat something while she waits, but she abruptly cuts in, saying she's submitting her letter of resignation. She was already planning to do so after returning to Dragon Lake, but now feels like the right time. She turns away as he reaches out to stop her, but before he can, a voice calls out from behind, urging her to wait, not to leave. She looks up, startled, and there he is, Aclands, standing in front of her. His thoughts flicker back to the conversation with the Empress, when he admitted he was the reason his mate died. The Empress had been stunned, and he had called himself a blind fool, one who failed to recognize and accept his mate when she had been right in front of him. So he burned down everything that blinded him and turned back time to make things right, to win her heart once more. Hasolan looks away and tells him to allow her to resign. The whole way from the lake to the capital she tried to imagine herself not living as his shadow. In the past she became the Grand Duchess and lived in the beautiful Impel Palace for a long time. But looking back, she was never happy. It wasn't where she was supposed to be. For now, it is hard to picture herself living a life free from him and the palace. Nevertheless, she wants to find out in this life what it is like not being an empty shell by his side but rather her real self. She wants to be where she truly belongs. That was her resolution, and yet as she tells him to allow her to resign, she wonders why does he keep getting in her way. Silence falls and Palgrave quietly excuses himself, leaving the two of them alone. After a pause asks why she wants to resign, what she plans to do afterward. But she tells him flatly that he keeps asking pointless questions. She is incompetent and of no benefit to him. He argues, she says that as if that is the reason why she cannot remain by his side. She believes it is because it's true. He tells her he's not trying to use her, he just wants to grant her every desire. He also says he's sorry for making her feel that way and admits he was wrong. She is too stunned and blurts out she cannot accept his apology and that it is absurd for him to apologize to a lowly commoner like her. She thinks isn't this an overreaction and realizes something is not right here. She knows Aclands better than anyone in this world. He is a man of strict principles, a completely emotionless soul who takes no interest in anything except for his duties as emperor. But she recalls this time he's putting his duties aside and putting her first and wonders why he never said such a thing before. Or looked at her with that face. She points out they only met 2 days ago, he couldn't have possibly done her any wrong in that time. Or have they met before? She asks. She wonders why didn't it cross her mind earlier. She has come back in time herself, so of course Aclands could have done so as well. She nervously wonders what if this really is the same him. Does that mean she can never escape him? Is she stuck in that miserable life forever? Before he can say another word, she collapses. When she finally comes to, the Empress's voice reaches her, arguing with someone that if there's nothing wrong with her, then why is she still unconscious? The Empress then asks about Aclands, wondering if he's still the same. Disoriented, she tries to place where she is. The emperor says she's awake. She realizes it is the empress. She quickly sits up and greets her, but the empress stops her, telling her not to strain herself, that she's still too weak. She then asks where she is. The empress replies she passed out, so they brought her to the medical wing. She was unconscious for half a day and asks if she remembers what happened. She's surprised that she was out for that long. Actually, while she was talking to Aclan earlier, she thinks she started having trouble breathing. Her eyes fly open as her own voice echoes in her mind, have they met before? Panic flickers across her face as she quickly turns and asks where His Highness is. The Empress says she truly doesn't remember anything, does she? She then says Aclan is currently under quarantine. As he watched her faint, he went berserk and couldn't contain his dragon powers, so for the safety of the people, she subdued him and put him in temporary confinement. This never happened in the past either, forcing her to wonder if he has really come back in time just like she has. The Empress recalls Aclan wanted her to relay something to Hasolan. He says he's never met her before, that she would understand if she told her that. She lets out a sudden laugh and replies that she sees. The Empress closes her eyes, thinking to herself that she did tell her because he asked. A shaky breath leaves Hasolan as she murmurs what a relief, even as tears begin to gather in her eyes. The Empress wonders if this is truly the right thing to do. Later over tea, the Empress recalls the moment he admitted he was the reason his mate died. After he dropped that shocking news and left, she remembers what followed, how he had knelt beside the unconscious girl, begging her to open her eyes, voice cracking as he asked why she kept dying. Tears had slipped from his eyes, falling onto her cheeks as he whispered if she hated him that much, enough to run straight into death's arms instead of his. But it was no use, no matter how many times she chose death he would turn back the clock to have her once more. She cursed him, telling him he was in the imperial palace and to come to his senses. She thinks to herself, of all the dragons, why did he have to be the one to awaken as the next emperor? Hasolan calls out to her asking if she did something wrong, pointing out she seems upset. She begins to say if it is something she did, but the Empress exclaims of course not. The Empress then glances at her, thinking this girl is at the center of everything. Aclan's mate, Hasolan Oder. Everything from her speech to her etiquette is flawless. However, it is a little too flawless. Only a few hours ago, she passed out after a mental breakdown, and now she's sitting across from this nation's empress in a private meeting. Even the most seasoned noble would be on edge at this moment, but she is remarkably calm. The Empress wonders, was she just born with a heart of steel, or has she faced so much hardship until now that she is more than used to situations like this? Either way, Aclan is at fault. The Empress leans forward and asks if she came to the palace as soon as she was assigned to the Dragon Lake. She replies that's correct. She then questions how old does that make her, 24, 25, but she replies she's 23. And thinks what kind of conversation is this? It is shocking enough that she's sitting with the Empress for tea time right now. The Empress then begins to bombard her with questions. What's her favorite food? Where is she from? Would she like some more cake? Her random questions are making her more flustered. She then asks her if she passes out often, considering her to be naturally frail. At first, she thought she might have a hidden agenda. But that doesn't seem to be the case. Hasolan admits this is the first time she has passed out. In that case, the Queen believes the long trip must have worn her out. To Hasolan, it sounds like she's genuinely concerned for her. No one has ever treated her like this before, so she doesn't know how to react. She adds she is sure it wasn't an easy journey, and with a smile says thank you for making it this far. She is too stunned, but then drops her gaze, saying she is a lowly lake keeper. She doesn't deserve such praise. Hasolan knows she's just being courteous. But her warm smile gives her a strange feeling. Those comforting words almost feel like they are meant for the 37-year-old her, and it makes her want to cry. She undoes his restraints and he mutters he thought she was going to hold him here longer. Arms crossed, she shoots him a look and asks does he think she's doing this for his sake. He shifts the conversation, asking where is Solan and if she's alright. The Empress replies his mate is fine, she even had tea with her and is resting in her room right now, so he doesn't need to worry. He sighs in relief and thanks her, so she demands an answer. Why won't he tell her that he traveled back in time? She points a finger at him, accusing him of dragging her into his deceitful scheme. What is he trying to achieve here? He replies all he wants is Solan. The Emperor snaps that is all the more reason he shouldn't lie to her. He's deceiving his mate. Deceiving? He scoffs. and fires back what is a little deceit if he can keep her alive. He lets her know after finding herself back in the past, she took her own life 4 times. And all he could do was watch from inside the dragon lake. His eyes burn with madness as he whispers he can't watch her die anymore, so this is the only way to start over. To come back 14 years into the past to the time when they first met and win her heart. At night she murmurs this nightgown is so soft and the bed is so cozy. They even brought her meal to her room. She cannot believe she is getting to enjoy such luxuries given her current status. After having tea with the empress, she was given a room that Her Majesty personally picked for her. She buries her face in her hands, disappointed she'll never get to run away in secret now. Technically speaking, she is being tied down here. So much is different, her private meeting with the empress. Aclands going berserk. None of these things happened in her previous life. In the past, as soon as Acland arrived at the imperial palace, he started preparations to become the next emperor, and she trained to become his attendant so that she could remain here. At the time the nobles blatantly hated her. That was why she worked tirelessly to prove her worth. She didn't even realize how much it ate away at her body and mind. Soon after, a civil war broke out over the throne. Only a dragon with a mate could be the emperor. It was only when she was considered a useful piece in the fight for the throne that she was allowed to stay by that man's side. Yet now he is locked up and she is being welcomed here. It is unbelievable how everything is playing out in the opposite way this time. It is as if someone is trying to change the past on purpose. She tenses and tells herself no way, she's overthinking it. He even said no himself. She's sure she's just being too conscious of Acland. Plus he would never do such a thing. She's not even his mate. She lets out a deep sigh, finding it all so frustrating. Over breakfast the next morning she's still stuck on the same thought, this is so frustrating. She barely got any sleep last night because her thoughts were all over the place, yet here she is having breakfast with these two. She peeks at him. Not to mention, why does he look perfectly fine? Didn't he go crazy yesterday? She wonders would she have felt better had he not looked fine. It seems that once again, she's trapped in the palm of his hand. She suddenly calls out to Acland and reminds him before coming to this palace, he promised to give her whatever she wanted. She tells him to let her resign, she wants to leave the palace. He goes quiet, then mumbles that she's always talking about leaving. She replies simply because that's what she wants. She wishes to be where she is needed, where she can live as her true self. He remarks that is her wish. Very well, she has his permission to resign. She looks happy while the empress looks shocked. But then he adds on one condition, he is going with her. Shocked, Solon watches as he takes a strand of her hair and murmurs she may leave this palace but she can never leave him. He suddenly announces he's giving up the crown. The queen freezes. Then she shouts, giving up the crown? He can't be serious. He is the only dragon fit to be emperor right now. He only mutters perhaps, but one never knows. Hasolan stares at him, stunned. The doors fly open and a messenger rushes in, claiming he has an urgent message. The queen asks urgent enough that he would burst in without knocking. The man quickly declares a newly awakened dragon is on his way to the capital right now. And that concludes the video today. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you want another part.